each. The vacant storefront program is a match up to 10,000. So perhaps there's consideration to changing that amount, as well as just looking at the timing. I was not part of those discussions. I think Josh, I know you've been part of, I believe, the committee looking at the grant process, if I'm not mistaken, and maybe Fred or John. But if I think that's work that we should resume in conjunction with moving forward with the vacant storefront application. We talked a little bit about that at the last meeting, and if I can maybe jump into that. The process for that starts with, and this would be a staff-driven process, identifying parcels where there has been a vacant storefront, first ground level, and the state's looking for vacancies that have been 12 months or greater. We need to identify the location of those sites. And then it's a 3-page application that then we would identify the sites and create districts, vacant storefront districts, that would need to be approved by the EACC. And the timing of that, the next EACC meeting is in December. It's December 10th, which would require the application to be submitted by November 4th. I had a conversation, I think staff internally, we've had discussion about being able to pull something together and have something ready to submit by that November 4th deadline. And obviously, we would be in communication with the EDC. I think at our next meeting, maybe some of that work will be done to have identified those districts. And again, it's a very basic application that would then go in. The EACC would approve them. And then thereafter, once approved, any entities that are looking to locate in those approved storefronts would be eligible to submit a grant application. So I think at this point, we've identified the need to identify what those specific storefronts are, so that we can pull the application together. And I think maybe have a conversation, perhaps at the next meeting, depending on when it's scheduled, provide an update on where that stands.
Great. Yeah, so I think once we have more information that satisfies the criteria for the program, we'll be able to dedicate more time to talk about this in particular. I'm curious whether the district can include, whether there's a percentage of vacancy that it needs to meet, or there just might be a few vacant parcels. So it could be, whether perhaps if it was Bay State Commons, there's successful retail up and running, but there are vacant storefronts. So that itself might be a district potentially.
Yeah, it could be. You could have an individual parcel, or you could have one storefront and potentially be approved, or you could have multiple. And Kevin Kuros had some guidance based on what he's seen in terms of what they may be looking for, and his thoughts in a conversation that he and I had. Big box isn't quite, or the much larger vacant areas are not necessarily what this is focused on.
Okay.
But we have some long-term vacancies in the plaza on Lyman Street. There are a couple. One's larger, the old dress barn location, but there's some smaller ones that have certainly been vacant more than a year. We've got some vacancy on West Main Street, where the antique dealer went out, and that's actually been vacant for over a year. So I'm sure we'll be able to identify a number of parcels around town. So.
Yep.
Was there, I'm trying to recall, Kim, was there a limit on the number of districts that you could have, or were they encouraging you to, because we certainly have more popping up as time goes on right now.
They're looking for them to be located in the downtown or commercial district. And no, I think it appears that as long as the vacant storefront meets the criteria and is included in your map showing how you're defining your district, there seems to be a lot of flexibility.
One thing that we heard in the presentation was that it might be a good idea to designate a district in the downtown as a district. Like you might choose the downtown business district, you might choose a portion of the highway business district. so that you don't have to go back to justify a location that's outside of a district. So my thought would be that you do designate the commercially zoned properties in the downtown business district and those in the highway business district, so that if an application comes up on a storefront that wasn't previously vacant but becomes vacant, you could act on it.
All right, great. So we will plan to have this on the agenda for our next meeting so that we can look at what we identify, and then we can agree on what we think is the best strategy. And I think at that point, maybe we look at, did he have 3 or 4 that have successfully received the grant so far, I believe, when we met?
Yep.
Okay.
There's a
All
link right on the state's website. There's a link to.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
We'll-
I know
we'll-
there's been a number of applicants in a lot of gateway communities, gateway cities.
Yeah.
Worcester, Fitchburg have received these.
So are there more now than 3 or 4, was it, Josh?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Okay, because I
think
thought when he was
Worcester
in
has
with
at least
us.
2.
Okay. I thought when he was in with us the other, like a month ago, it was, there were maybe 3 or 4, but okay.
He did indicate that it was becoming a little more competitive.
Yep.
So his message was, you're still entering at a good time, but don't wait too long.
Right.
Also on next month's agenda, can we have an update on what the process will be for the grants? Will the subcommittee meeting on that have time to meet and come back with a recommendation that we can finalize any change in process?
I think, Kim, you were identifying that this initial work was needed to be done by town staff.
No, I'm not referring to the investigation for the program. I'm talking about the small business grant program. If we're going to change it to some of the funds for the matching funds, if we're going to, I know the way the grant program was originally set up, it was a rolling application process, that there was some discussion about having fixed deadlines, twice a year or 3 times a year, where people would submit and then there'd be a decision process. So I'm wondering where that effort might be, and if we could bring that to
I think
closure.
we probably have 3 different areas that are surfacing. We have our original committee that was reviewing current applications under our former approval process, and we do
Right.
have 1 in the pipeline. And then we have our second group that started to get together to talk about, okay, let's improve how we're handling the process here. Let's go to, rather than a rolling, applications, let's go to something a little more formal, so that there's a little more criteria involved in how we prioritize, how we use our funds. And now third, we're looking at this new, the new state program. So the original committee on reviewing current applications was John, Fred, and Josh, I believe. Does that sound right?
Correct. And then the EDC coordinator, obviously. So Kim's taking
Okay.
that position, I
Oh,
guess.
so Jim stepped in on that.
Kim.
Oh, Kim. Oh, okay. All right. Yep. Okay, great. And then who was the next group? I thought it was.
If I may, the other group wasn't, I don't know that we ever formalized it. So we met once. It was Linda, myself, you, and John, I believe, actually.
I think it was Shelby.
Was it? Yeah, Shelby, my apologies.
So it was
So,
Linda, Shelby, Fred, and John.
right, we met the one time at Linda's place, but I don't know that we ever went anywhere with that, to be honest with you.
Okay.
No, we did identify a number of things, everything from the application to the timing of it. So there was plenty of work to be done with regards to sort of evaluating the whole thing. And I think the plan was, Alan, was to sort of come up with some items and bring it before the committee for comment, and then further refinement, that sort of thing.
Yeah,
Okay.
one of the things that came out of that was we wanted to change the grant application form, not dramatically, but make tweaks to it. But the timing was terrible because any notes that we had kind of get lost in the shuffle there somewhere too. Because we had talked about changes, even the other subcommittee talked about minor tweaks to the application, but we've kind of lost track of that, to be honest with you.
Okay. So if we look at where we're at, and given, you know, we want to be moving ahead of this, but I think there's more conversation that should be had, is if we, Alan, would you be interested in stepping into Shelby's spot there? Okay,
Absolutely.
so if we had, and Linda, Fred, and John, are you interested in continuing on in that?
Sure, that's fine.
Sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
Linda?
Yes, I am.
Okay, great. So then with that subcommittee, and I think we were focused on 4 people because we were trying not to run into public meeting law issues. So can that group of 4 plan to get together and talk about the review process and the application form and I guess the issue of the timing, the rolling application versus more formalized deadlines. But we do then need to talk about our $40,000 that we have available and how we want to, you know, allocate that given this new state program that we're trying to leverage. So if you can get together on that in the next couple of weeks and be prepared to bring some thoughts and recommendations forward for our next meeting, I think that would be helpful. Okay, any other thoughts on that? Kim, do you feel then that you can work with the town team on doing the research needed to identify what we may have for storefronts, and then we can talk further about that next, you know, at the next meeting. Okay, then I guess the other issue that we can move over to is the current application. And I know you have, the subcommittee did meet last week, and I believe David McGrath is on the phone with us today.
I believe so. I'm making, he
Okay.
was.
I am.
Good. There
Okay,
you are.
great. Thank you for joining us. So I don't know, Josh, if you, Fred, or John or Kim, if you want to summarize where you are. For those who may recall, we had awarded a grant to Dairy Queen in the past, and they've now, you know, business has changed and they have had not drawn the funds, but would someone like to summarize where we are on that?
I can just give a brief intro before the actual members of the subcommittee share the results of their meeting. But this goes back to on December 4th, 2019, the committee approved a grant in the amount of $5,000 to Dairy Queen for picnic tables, a countertop freezer, and some other landscaping improvements. Ultimately, I think it was probably late March, right before everything shut down due to COVID, that David McGrath had reached out and was looking at perhaps requesting the ability to purchase other items than what had been approved. So we started having a conversation with COVID and everything that hit. We've been in touch a number of times over the months leading up to where we are today, which is a request to, this is not additional funds. We've been very clear in that. Just he has not expended any of the 5,000 awarded. So he's looking for approval to modify what he can spend those funds on. And I'm not sure, I think John, did you want to, or the subcommittee of John, Josh, and Fred met last week, and David was part of that conversation as well. So I'll turn it over to them.
Well, I can speak to it if you like. So the new application I saw that David is now bringing forward the tables as presented in the original application. I forget the exact number, but that's somewhere in there. And in lieu of the other items, he's requesting 3 digital point of sale registers, I believe, and he can certainly speak more to those. I think as a subcommittee, we're in agreement that what he's requesting sounded fine. The only point, I don't know if this got back to David, we are in agreement that, and he can speak to the registers, that seemed like a reasonable request because it took his business in a different way. So we're in agreement with that, but there was also what appeared to us to be like a monthly fee. And I don't know that we saw that as being part of the grant, or because we saw it more of a business fee or part of the operation of the business as opposed to a upfront grant, okay, if you will. So that's kind of where we were as a subcommittee. So we're okay with the registers and the tables. If David wants to explain the point of the point of sale register a little bit, that might be helpful for the committee as well.
Happy to take it away
Thank you
from
for
there.
joining us. Yep.
Of course, happy to take it away from there unless other folks have input. But yeah, everything that's been said is correct. And yeah, as a result, and appreciate everything that I want to first say, just appreciate everything Westborough has done to kind of work with us throughout the past couple months have been, and in the past couple years, it's been great to kind of work with you all and keep the Dairy Queen alive and well in Westborough. But yeah, so we beginning of this year hadn't used those funds yet. We didn't use them right away. Is kind of the winter's quiet, and I don't keep too much aren't working too much on the business through the winter, but decided in March to kind of implement that new register system and had to put it in at the beginning of the year in order to kind of run the business this year, and with delivery and such being so much more important. It made a lot of sense to really make that upgrade, and we were using basically Staples cash registers that didn't allow us to change prices, didn't allow us to do a whole host of things that and maybe speed up our business a little bit too, and serve more customers, which has been great. And then they've been a great addition to the business. And yeah, there's a monthly fee associated, and it sounds like that may not pass with the committee, but I kind of view it as one full sale investment in a product, was kind of the way I thought of it. And again, we'll probably buy those new tables so to use the grant funds and maybe put them in storage or through the winter. But we'll certainly make sure those funds get used for your guys' accounting end and such. But that's all.
Can you explain the fee that they're referring to? I'm not
Sure.
What's
So
the
the
price
register-
of the registers?
The register system, it kind of comes with a cloud functionality that I can, instead of our old system, it was all right there in the little register, and you pick out the whatever the products and the receipts were at the end of the day. But now we're able to do that all. I'm able to keep an eye on prices remotely, change anything I need to, make a lot more editable functionality, and that comes with a kind of fee. They operate as a kind of software system, so it's kind of you can't use the registers without it. It was a necessary, or that system required it, and others we looked at across the board offered had that same thing, that it was a hardware plus software purchase to implement.
Hey, David, last time you had requested a freezer.
Sure.
Did you end up buying that, or
No, we did
that
not.
no longer needed?
No longer needed. I think that the trajectory's kind of changed and of our business, and may think about it further down the road. But in order to kind of use the funds at the moment, had opted not to do that.
And in terms of the tables, currently you have tables now, correct? I'm not sure if they're available during COVID, but
we haven't made them available, and they're a number of years old. So we figured it was time for an upgrade, kind of enhance the outdoor image of our property, and alongside we're planning on kind of continue to work on the landscaping and just kind of make the patio a great place once, I guess, things return to a more normal state of socialization, to kind of allow a little more seating and a little less cleaning up and such.
I will say that the current tables with the wire tops, as they've aged, the tops aren't necessarily level and smooth.
Exactly.
So I think with these new tables, you'll find many fewer spills.
Exactly.
And the tables were part of the request submitted in December. Really, the difference here is removing the freezer and basically requesting that instead of purchasing the freezer, the cash register, the point of sale system be approved.
That's correct, Kim.
It looks
And
like
I
the
do just want to
style.
point out those cash registers have already been purchased. I just want to be clear on that. You know, when David first contacted me, it was mid-March, and we were talking about this. I don't think you had yet purchased them, but you indicated the sort of business necessity of not holding off to see if the grant would come through for them, that it was important for you with a seasonal business to move forward with the purchase.
Exactly.
At this point, what has the subcommittee received, and how did the numbers, if you can just summarize what the breakdown is between the registers and the tables and what you're recommending?
Sure, I can do that.
Okay.
Essentially, hold on 1 second, let me get my screens in order there. The tables at 880, 885 for 4 of them come out to $3,555.40. The POS, not including the fee, comes out to $1,211.22, of which he's included in the in his subsequent application, the actual invoice that he paid for them, and that comes to a total of $4,766.62.
And the subcommittee is recommending we approve this.
Yeah,
I
the subcommittee
recommend
was
approval.
supportive of this.
Yes.
And just for the benefit of those who haven't seen all of the materials, so John just quoted the, with respect to the registers, the amount not including the monthly licensing fee, or at least 7 months worth of that. So the difference between with the licensing fee of $18.20 and without the licensing fee is the $12.11 that John had just mentioned. So I think the subcommittee is recommending approval, but without the 7-month licensing fee included.
Correct. I think we saw that as an administrative business operational fee, which is not included, covered under the grant.
Yeah, we were in agreement on that statement.
With our original application, I know we were talking about the registers. There was an application that was submitted, and there were some items that we felt, I think it was the cornhole, we felt wasn't something we wanted to be supporting. However, we agreed that the balance would be used for landscaping improvements. So I'm wondering, given that that's what you're proposing now, when you bring out the tables, that if we want to be approving hardware for the registers and the hardware for the tables, whether we might round to the 5,000 and have invoices submitted that include the upgrades to the exterior, whether that's something we want to do, or whether the subcommittee recommends that we hold to the costs for just what's been provided so far for the hardware for the registers and the tables. I mean, that doesn't give much. It only, what does it end up being, a couple $100 remaining?
I think
to get
about
to the
just under
5,000?
$300.
Yep.
Bonnie, a suggestion might be, I believe, David, you weren't positive if you would be purchasing the tables right away, or you talked about the possibility of waiting until the start of your next season. And if that's the case, perhaps you could authorize spending up to $5,000 in the event the table costs went up a little bit. It would just give that flexibility.
I think that makes sense.
But that way you're specifically authorizing what the funds are being expended on. It would be the tables and the registers.
Sure, and I'd probably opt for the kind of the roundup through landscaping, but flexible as to what the committee deems to be suitable for the funds.
I think the other thing that I'd add that we discussed was in regards to the timetable for the expenditure of the funds, which is something that's come up before. And we thought, given the seasonality of his business and the time of the year it already is, it made sense to go up through the end of the fiscal year for the expenditure of the funds, which will allow him to use the funds when he goes to open again next year, provided that COVID is, allows. But that way he can incorporate it into the business opening for the spring. And then my only other comment with regards to the $233 would be that I think it needs to not be open-ended. It needs to be somewhat limited, in scope, either one thing or the other, so that it's clear what the expenditure is for.
Yeah, I'd agree with that statement. The other thing I'd add to that is that I don't know if he can do this, but he might want to partially he's already bought the registered. So should the committee approve this thing, he should go for that reimbursement now, I would think. Or I don't know if he can do that, do a partial reimbursement now.
Yep, because it's based on expenditures and submitting receipts.
Right.
And we draft a grant, we draft basically a contract between the town and the grantee. So, we detail the award, and typically it details exactly what's been approved. The committee's motion is included in that. So I agree with John's comment. I think it would be helpful if we leave $250 without really defining, what is landscaping. Again, it's a little gray. So I think I'd appreciate either some clarity on what constitutes landscaping, if that's what it's authorized for, or just an authorization to expend up to $5,000 for the purchase of the registers, which we know that cost, and up to 4 tables.
Do we need a motion?
Did you have a motion, Kim?
I believe John has it.
Okay.
I do, just bear with me 1 second. I just want to tweak it for the up to $5,000. Okay, I would make a motion to reallocate the grant funds previously approved on December 4th, 2019 from the previously approved freezer, speakers, landscaping, and tables to now be for up to $5,000 to be expended for picnic tables, the point of sale system indicated, and landscaping improvements.
I second. Edinburgh seconds.
Oh, can I just add one other thing? Let's to amend it to say this expenditure authorization shall expire on 6/30/2021.
Edinburgh seconds as amended.
And just to be accurate, the speakers were not approved last time, John. So it's.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that they were. I thought it was just the cornhole.
Well, yeah, to Kim's point too, though, what's the expenditure in the landscaping? I mean, is it for a specific item?
It was not previously indicated as a specific item. If you want, we can lay out the dollar amounts. So it separates out, but then it restricts sort of the amount for the table. If the table price goes up that exceeds the 5,000, then there's nothing remaining for landscaping. And the past grant, the specifics for landscaping wasn't indicated.
We know the specific amount already expended for the register, right?
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
So why don't we specify that, and then the remaining to be used for those items up to 5,000. Is that the intent?
I think it is, but are you comfortable with that, Fred?
Yeah, that's fine. You got to
Okay.
amend your motion, John. Sorry.
Okay, so as amended, let's say the grant now to be for $1,211.22 for reimbursement for the point of sale system, with the remaining amounts up to $5,000 to be for the 4 picnic tables indicated and any remaining for landscaping improvements.
To be expended by June
So,
30th,
yes, thank you.
2021.
This expenditure authorization shall expire on 6/30/2021. Thank you, Alan.
Edinburgh seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Roll call.
Do we need to do the roll call, Kim?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Sullivan, favorable.
Jim Robbins, yes.
Josh Lee Smith, yes.
Fred Leonardo, yes.
Alan Edinburgh, yes.
John Steinberg, yes.
Chris Payne, yes.
Todd Alexander, yes.
Is that everyone that's still with us?
Linda,
Is Linda still on?
Yeah, sorry, I forgot to unmute. Linda Townsend, yes.
Okay, great. Very good. Thank you for joining us, David.
Thank you guys for taking the time and thanks for the approval. Wish you all the best for the rest of the week and a great long weekend. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Great. Well, good. So we have 10 minutes remaining for updates. So I don't know, Jim, if you'd like to give us some of your highlights.
Just really briefly, we submitted the grant application for the Massworks program last Wednesday afternoon. We were early, which is great. I always like to be early for those programs. It's for $1.4 million for the infrastructure associated with the intersection of the extension of West Park Drive to Flanders Road. The grant would fund the hardware associated with the new signalized intersection, the redesign work of the intersection itself, the B-Walt Trail, which is the Boston-Worcester Airline Trail, as it extends the full length from the current cul-de-sac at West Park Drive to the new intersection with Flanders Road. It would also pay for the widening of the intersection at Flanders Road and the sidewalk. We hope to hear in November or early December when the awards are announced. I will say that last I noticed there were approximately 50 applications. If that's any bearing on what they funded last year, which was 26, it will be a competitive process.
Oh. Well, it sounds encouraging that we've got a strong application.
Yes.
From our discussions. And that's for how much money was it in total? Was it
$1.4 million plus?
No, I mean, was the total that they had for the 50 applications?
Oh,
Didn't
gee,
they have a limited?
I forgot. It was
What was the average of the 26 last year? Was it?
over $1 million. So
Yeah.
we're right in the ballpark.
Yep.
Never award more than $2 million.
Yep. Okay. Great. That's great work, Jim. Thank you.
Thank you. That's my update for now, so others can speak as well.
Okay. Fred?
thank you. I really don't have that much. The only thing, my concern for the town really is the small businesses. We seem to have more smaller businesses popping up and actually going the opposite way, just kind of disappearing, unfortunately. I'm not too concerned about the larger projects. They seem to be doing pretty well. But as I said, we have more and more of these smaller storefronts kind of going vacant, which is not a good thing, unfortunately. I'm not sure what the answer to that is, but it's out there. That's all I had.
Do you want to just mention those that you're aware of? I mean, and this is maybe part of what we were originally going to discuss under market developments. And we have now like 8 minutes for kind of a group conversation about what we're seeing. So we know, for example, Bushel and Peck is one that's not there. But can you run down those that you're familiar with?
Well, Bushman Peck, and I don't know that Husan Kitchen has ever opened up. So that whole building may be vacant. Sunshine, there had been somebody that approached me for that, but it doesn't sound like that's going to work out. So that little plaza will probably stay vacant. 57 East Main Street, unfortunately, just had a water incident. So they were shut down for a few days. But they've had at least one tenant move out. And as a matter of fact, they're starting to reopen that whole office, but Montessori School was planning some expansion, which is not going forward. There's at least one vacancy, if not more, in her building. There's Gary Chuel as a 108 East Main Street, Milk Street. I'm sorry, I'm getting my streets mixed up. Milk Street. He's had vacancies that will qualify for the storefronts for quite some time, and I think he's had a shift. That's part of what we're having now is some businesses shifting from one plaza to another. So I think he's had, I know Paradise Island, which is a small business. It's only been there a couple of years. They're out. I think Kumanon's moving out of there.
One's out.
Yeah, so that's
gone.
So that's created a couple more vacancies in his building. Cold Harbor was applying for a variance, which now they've pulled that variance. So I doubt that project will go forward in that building. So, those are just a few off the top of my head. There's a few downtown. Alan had mentioned the antique dealer. Subway's out downtown. There was a tile store there for about a year. They're out. So we're getting more and more vacancies downtown as well, unfortunately. And they're all small locations. They're not, as I said, the bigger places seem to be doing okay, at least in town. We have some other big projects talking to us. Whether they'll come forward or not, who knows? But
Is Bushel and Peck out?
Yes.
Yes.
Did Subway leave during COVID or before?
They left during, but kind of the cloak of darkness. They literally just disappeared one day. That's the one downtown. I think actually there was another one in town that left a while ago, and it might have been pre-COVID actually.
Right. The
one next to
on
GameStop?
No, the one on Route 9.
In Belmont
Left.
Plaza. Left.
Yeah, left. That was pre-COVID though. I think isn't Parcel and the Parcel coffee shop in that space?
No, yeah.
They're still open.
Yes.
No, right,
that
but
is in
they're
the
open. They took over the Subway space, I thought.
Yeah, that is in the Subway space. And the antique
Okay.
dealer was pre-COVID.
Right.
He sold the building. The other thing that I would mention, Fred, is the DoubleTree is now closed. They've told us for 7 months.
Yeah, that's true. So I've gotten the
Trying again in
direction.
April.
Yeah, good point, John. Thank you.
Is the DoubleTree just closed for 7 months, or is it permanent?
So the word that I heard from the general manager is their plan is 7 months and then reevaluate. They've kept a few locations open in the area. Milford, I think, is still open. But they have furloughed and laid off almost all their employees. And so what their status will be in 7 months, I couldn't
Okay.
predict.
Just
And what-
Don, have you
what
heard
condition
anything
of the building.
about the other hotels in town?
well, one thing on the DoubleTree, just I know individuals who had events planned at the DoubleTree further than 7 months out, and the DoubleTree canceled those sales and those reservations. And maybe it's because they're not sure if they're going to be back, and it wouldn't be enough time. You don't want to know you have to relocate your wedding or your bar mitzvah 8 weeks before it happens. So maybe they're just being cautious. So
we need to think about our annual meeting.
Actually, that's something on our agenda that we did get to. And I don't know if before we jump into that, maybe for a minute or two, we can talk about if anyone else has anything they want to add further on business closings that they're aware of.
Yeah, the only other area, I'm sorry to keep harping on this, but down by the Plaza and Red Heat and Uno's and stuff, that whole area is not doing real well, and the cinema's become more of a disaster than anything. So that's not helping. There's been vacancies on that for 2+ years.
Did we fully disperse our grant there, the 25,000 that we had approved the prior year? for the maintenance and all that we did with the, from our meetings with, in
The signage?
response to
Catch
the
basins and
Regal Cinema.
Yeah, that was Alan Height worked on that. That predates Kim, so I don't really know, to be honest. I'm not sure if John has any idea on that one.
What's the timing now on that project with, as far as the eminent domain and our ability to do something there?
So we had a hearing at the land court with the Chief Justice of the land court prior to any publication. Given the uniqueness of it with myself, our land attorney and town council and Bob Haley. And it went very well. We were very pleased with it. We got very good reception after many questions and acknowledgements of, yes, it's hard to believe and it's unusual. But they gave us some guidance on who to publish to and notify and where, and sort of left it at that. So what the total time frame is unclear to me. However, it is progressing and progressing well, I guess would be my summary.
Right. And to clarify, there's no plans to take by eminent domain. This is the tax taking for the unpaid property taxes.
Okay, that's what it, I'm sorry. Yep. So wasn't that time frame initiated already from, or is that something that was just initiated, John, by the recent activity?
No, this is all part of the process. I mean,
okay,
we have to get clearance. Essentially, they publish and they give notification to anyone who may have an interest in the property. They have a certain amount of time to reply to the land court. After that, the land court gives us, there's another hearing, the land court gives us approval to record the taking, and then the town will foreclose. And then there's a period, I think, of a year prior to any disposition of the property. So you're still probably, a year and a half plus out. So it's got some time.
Okay.
But don't quote me on that timetable because I'm not sure.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's certainly a year, when we first launched the grant program, it certainly was a priority, and it sounds like it's continued to be quite a drain for other reasons on the town. So that would definitely be something we don't want to lose sight of. Okay. So back to the question on the annual review. I think we were questioning, we did actually have it on our agenda here, but we were thinking, and I think we discussed at our last meeting, which Josh, I think you ended up with the conflict with the doctor's appointment, but we were talking about, that it might not be realistic to think that in January we were going to be having an event with, a couple hundred people, that we thought maybe this was the year, and we weren't drawing any conclusions, but we thought maybe this is the year that we build off of what the success that we had working with Westborough TV last year, where we did the videos recognizing our award winners. And maybe we had also, Todd had introduced the idea of a town video that he had seen, I think, Grafton and possibly Marlborough. And we thought maybe this is the year that we work with Westborough TV and we either create a video for the town and then maybe we have a virtual event, or Kim introduced the idea of doing business spotlights that we might put online. So we were thinking that the annual review, maybe what we could do is create another subcommittee and have that be another topic for our next discussion, where a group gets together and talks about our options, because there is of course the option of continuing to do what we've done in the past, which I know from involvement in other organizations and what we're all hearing, it's become less and less likely that you can have these large events, whether you can hold them or then whether people would feel comfortable attending. So there's that option. And then there's, at least for starters, there's the video, and then there's the business spotlights, and maybe there are other creative ideas. So maybe given the time at this point, maybe we create a subcommittee, and that might be something that, you can come back and we can discuss it further at our next meeting. So I don't know who's interested in that. But,
We will.
I'll volunteer.
Interested in it.
okay, Todd, Josh, others,
Jim.
Like Jim Robbins.
Alan?
I
It
think
must
Jim
be
Robbins
off
raised
our
his hand.
screen. I'm interested. This is Jim.
Okay. Alan, would you be interested? I know you're very eager to get involved and this might be a new area. But I don't know if that's,
Well,
Linda had also expressed interest in the past, so I think we should keep it to 4, I would assume.
if Linda has interest, that's fine with me. Because I am committed on the EDC grant program. And then also at next meeting, I'd like an agenda item to specifically talk about short-term and long-term actions we can take with respect to the restaurant community in town and some of the storefronts. I mentioned it briefly at the last meeting, but I think there's an opportunity for us to help market Westborough as a destination, not only for diners, but hopefully as the economy opens up in the spring, restaurants and additional locations. So if that's okay, I'd like to focus my areas there, my energies there.
That's a good point, and I think that fits in this marketing video. I think that's essential because Westborough has such a strong restaurant sector.
And lots of liquor licenses.
Yes, lots of liquor licenses now.
You joke about it, but some communities don't have them. I mean,
yeah, we have
happy
a
with
good
that.
legislature.
So we did,
We have, I think, over 20 additional liquor licenses still available.
Oh,
no grease traps on the liquor licenses.
yes. Okay.
Well,
So
my
Please, don't
understanding
need
is
a grease trap for liquor.
my understanding is that we have grease traps. Just some of those locations have non-food service businesses in them at this point. So.
Bonnie, my only comment or suggestion might be, given that we know, I think we've lost our venue, it appears for I think at this point, I'm comfortable saying as a town sponsored event, I would not recommend moving forward with planning for a large in-person event in January.
I would have to agree with you on that. But I do think it's, I don't want to just make that universal decision for everyone, but I do, knowing all that is involved with it and knowing that the uncertainty of the climate that we're operating in, I just think we could have a lot of time spent that, may not be fruitful. So I think doing something virtual with some creative ideas or, video or some business spotlights or other creative ideas that people have might be a better way to dedicate time and something that we can have available to promote the town going forward. But well, just to recap what we follow up, given we're just after 5 now, and I will get back to you with a date. I know we've moved away from our standard monthly date as we kind of got things going, and maybe we push out and we make our next meeting actually, what would it be? It would actually be the October meeting, which would make it what, October 3rd, maybe? Let's see, when does that end up being? October 5th? October 6th. That would get us back on schedule. Personally, I prefer the afternoon. It works better with just balancing my workload. I don't know how that works for others.
Tuesday afternoons generally aren't the best.
Tuesday
right
afternoon,
now.
true, right. So we don't have to get back to our monthly schedule, I suppose. There isn't a reason we'd have to stick to that, is there? Kim?
No.
No? Okay. All right. Well, we'll get back to you on a date. As a rule, does an afternoon meeting, like whether it's a Thursday afternoon or a Monday afternoon, does that work for people? It works for me,
Monday
like a
is better for
3:30
me.
to.
Wednesday's
say,
bad.
Jen? So we avoid Wednesday and Tuesday and Wednesday. So if we went for Monday or Thursday afternoons from 3:30 to 5, is that a challenge for anyone? Seems to work for everyone.
Both can work. Thursdays are a little better for me.
Okay.
I tend to
So we'll target
a lot of meetings on
Thursday,
Mondays.
and that might end up that might end up meaning Thursday, October 1st, or even the prior, like Monday, September 28th. But we'll get back to confirm that. The other things to recap, I think on our guest, they were going to follow up with Kim and provide the link to VIA and some additional information that maybe that was to Jim, that Jim, you can share with us. And then we had our discussion on the grant and the state program. And I think that was where Kim, you were going to coordinate with the town on staff on doing the research to identify the potential properties for to submit in the application.
Correct.
And then the third was the committee, which was Linda, Fred, John, and Alan, to talk about the process and prioritizing how we dedicate our funds. And maybe what we add into that is promoting the restaurants and the storefronts, Alan. I think everything that we're talking about here.
We can, I mean, the thought as far as part of the promoting the restaurants, both for diners as well as a site that would be used to attract additional restaurants. I spoke with the woman who's built just as a goodwill to the community. To formalize it and build out a website would require some funds, plus a hosting fee for the year if it was going to become an official part of the, an official website. She's sort of been doing it personally up till now. So we'd be probably looking at, 8 to 10,000 in development and hosting fees for a year. So, certainly we can talk about that in the subcommittee. I don't know if that would fit with the grant or if that's something that if we wanted to pursue, we would look for funding at town meeting.
So that kind of overlaps a few things. I think it somewhat overlaps the grant program is evolving. It somewhat evolves what we're thinking about for promoting the town with possibly a video or so I'm not quite sure whether maybe that can be part of the discussion about the grant program. Sure. And it's a broader topic and it goes beyond what we're currently looking at. So okay, so we've got the town staff identifying the properties for the application to move forward for the November 4th deadline, I think it was. And then we've got the group that's the new subcommittee that's going to look at changing the application form and discussing how we prioritize our funds. And then our new topic was the annual review and what we might do there for a virtual celebration. And that is Josh, Jim, Todd, and Linda. Are you interested?
Sure, I'm happy to help.
Okay. All right, so that would be 4 people. And I think that's all of our follow-up, so that for our next meeting, we'll have reports back from each of these groups on things. And again, this is kind of on the idea of our short term, because we also know that on the longer term, the recommendation for the community development division and the EDC coordinator is something that we're looking at. And we may end up, being part of advertising and interviewing for someone in that role in the next couple of months. Is there anything else that anyone can think of? I don't know, Kim, is there anything further that you have? Okay. All
My
right,
only
well,
thought was maybe Karen Henderson would like a heads up to participate in the conversation about the virtual event.
Oh, good point. Good point, given her.
I want to be
guess
clear, I'm not offering up her services.
Right. No, I think that's a good point, because we're making the assumption that she's been very enthusiastic and supportive, but I think that's definitely very important.
Good ideas. She has lots of good ideas. So that's.
Yeah. Okay.
Bonnie, I have a call with her later tonight. and I'm happy
Okay.
to broach that topic.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you.
Sure.
And maybe she wants to be part of the discussion then. Since she's not a member, that wouldn't be a problem then. Okay, great. Well, thank you, everyone. Take care.
Thanks,
Enjoy
Bonnie.
the nice
you.
dry weather.
Thank you, Bonnie.
Yeah,
Thank you.
good seeing
Take
everyone.
care.
Take
All
care.
right.
Be well.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Yeah. I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Edinburgh, yes.
Steinberg, yes.
Robbins, yes.
Josh,
Josh Lee Smith, yes.
under the wire with a quorum, but there you go.
Okay. Favor?
Aye.
Motion adjourned.
You're done.
Okay.
All right.
Done.
Thanks.